Hi guys, thanks for watching. I'm Saumya and I'm back with another video. So today's video is going to be about the 10 best reads for me in 2019 so far. So I have read 40 books and out of them I have chosen these 10 books. It was not that difficult, honestly. This year particularly, these books really grabbed my attention and I loved them. If you are a book lover, then you should definitely subscribe to my channel Saumya's Bookstation, as I make loads of bookish content on this channel, and also press the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a video. And if you like this video, then do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to share it. And if you want more bookish updates, you can also follow me on my Instagram at @thatdesibooklover. In other news, I would like to tell you that I love this t-shirt that I'm wearing because it's a Game of Thrones t-shirt and you're not able to see it properly because of the framing of this camera. Anyway, it's a red tree and there are wolves drawn on the t-shirt and it says "The North remembers." This is one of my favorite dialogues. So please let me know in the comment section any of your favorite dialogues from any of your favorite series or TV shows. I love this one because it's just amazing and the scene that was attached to it makes it very powerful. The first book is All the Lives We Never Lived by Anuradha Roy. So this is a story about a man named Mishkin Rosario and his mother Gayatri Rosario. The story opens in 1990s when Mishkin is an old man, but it actually takes place in the 1930s when Mishkin is a boy of 9 or 10 years old. We read Mishkin's story in the time when his mother used to live with him and his father in a small imaginary town called Muntazir. And we also read about the time when Mishkin remembers his mother running away with a German man to Dutch East Indies, or more specifically Bali, and how his life changed after that. Mishkin's mother Gayatri Rosario was married to Mishkin's father, but that was not the life she wanted. In the country in the 1930s, freedom movement was rising, but Gayatri wanted a freedom of her own. It has been written so brilliantly that even though it's a fairly slow-paced story, it's more like a treat for the reader, savoring the entire story as it goes. And also Anuradha Roy's brilliant writing made sure that I was empathizing with each and every character that I was reading about, because in their own ways each one of them made sense. Next up in my list is Normal People by Sally Rooney, a book that everybody talks about, and I think this is one of the books that is worth the hype. So the protagonists Marianne and Connell study in the same high school, but they are polar opposites. Marianne comes from a rich family and she's considered a weirdo by everybody. Connell comes from a family that is kind of hard-pressed for money, but he is a popular kid in the school and they're both attracted to each other, so they get into a secret relationship so that the social balance of their high school does not get disturbed. Anyway, they're always a part of each other's life, sometimes as friends, sometimes as lovers, because they even end up going to the same college. This story is basically a continuation of their relationship from high school to college and the challenges that they face. A lot of times I found the behaviors of these two people to be frustrating, but that was the reason why the story was so engaging, because they were flawed and they were human, and that's what made the story real, and that's why I liked it a lot. Next up is Milkman by Anna Burns. So this one was the Man Booker Prize winner of 2018. Anyway, I had abandoned this book the first time I had picked it up because I read it without knowing the background. But the second time I picked it up, I had some idea about the background, and that's why I realized that this is actually a brilliant book. So this story is taking place in an unnamed city, and the protagonist of the story is an 18-year-old unnamed girl who is being stalked by a man much older than her. And since this man is a political figure, and since she lives in a society that is inherently judgmental against women, she is the one who has to face a lot of trauma. This book is actually based in the Northern Ireland of 1970s, and all the political and religious tensions that are talked about in this book are the religious and political issues that Northern Ireland was facing in the 70s. And also there is a quality in the story that makes it a nail-biting read, because as a reader I wanted to know what was going to happen to this 18-year-old girl who is actually in a very vulnerable kind of a position with the kind of society and the kind of atmosphere that she lives in. Anna Burns has written in a way that she digresses a lot. She starts talking about one thing, but then she starts talking about quite another thing, which goes on for 2-3 pages, and then she comes back to the main point. So that is one thing that can make this a tiresome read for quite a few people. But otherwise, apart from that, the story is absolutely brilliant and also very important. Next up is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. So this one is actually non-fiction. It's a memoir by Paul Kalanithi, who was a neurosurgeon who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer at the age of 36. So he was on a brink of a phenomenal career, but then everything in his life shattered when he discovered that he had a terminal illness. Nevertheless, he decided that he was going to make the most of his time, which he did. So it's divided in two parts, before cancer and after cancer. So in the before cancer part, we read about his early years, and in the after cancer part, we read about how he copes up and what he does and how his days pass. So he was not really able to complete his book. He died while writing it, and this book was published posthumously after his death. It is a very emotional read. We as human beings know that our days are numbered, but to still get an ultimatum is quite a horror and a nightmare. And reading about him sharing his experience, his thoughts in such a situation was just an out of the world experience. Apart from that, this book is very philosophical. It's the kind of book that you will not regret reading, and it's totally worth your time. The next book is 3000 Stitches by Sudha Murthy. So this is a collection of 11 stories, and all these 11 stories are based on true events. So this book is non-fiction. 3000 Stitches is one of those books that you keep seeing everywhere, but you never get around to picking it up. But when you finally do, you realize you should have read it way sooner, because that's what happened with me. This book is very inspiring, and what makes this book absolutely wonderful is that it has been written in such a simple manner that it gets the message right across. So many of these stories have such gems and life lessons for you. Just how much of a difference a seemingly simple act of kindness can make, just how much your life can change if you don't give up, just how much you can change another person's life if you don't give up. These are the kind of things that move you. The next one is Ravan, Enemy of Aryavart by Amish Tripathi. So I have reviewed this book on my channel. If you want to check out my detailed review, I'll leave the link for that in the description. So this is the third book in the Ramchandra series, and yes, you can read this book individually if you want to. I have explained the reason for that in detail in my review video. I had not read any account of Ravan's story, and I know that Ravan, Enemy of Aryavart is mythological fiction, which means that it is author Amish Tripathi's recreation of his story, but I think he did a great job with Ravan's story, and it made for a very interesting read. I won't call it racy, to be honest. It's not racy, but it is not written at a slow pace either. For me, it was a very enjoyable pace, and one of the biggest reasons that this book has made it to this list is how Ravan's personality has been fleshed out. Ravan seems to have quite a lot of traits that don't seem to go together in one person. Sometimes he's downright cruel, sometimes he's absolutely disrespectful, but then there are also times when you see the tender side of his personality for people he loves. All these polar opposite personality traits existing in one person, making each of these traits convincing in that one person is not an easy task, and that was done amazingly in Ravan, and that's why I loved it. The next book is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. So it's a story of a 10-year-old August whose face is not formed properly, or in other words, his face is deformed. So till the age of 10, he is homeschooled, but then his parents decide that it's time for him to join a proper school, and he starts his actual school with a lot of nervousness, and unsurprisingly, he faces bullying in his school. So August realizes that he's different from other people because he's used to being stared at. So Wonder is a beautiful story that has multiple point of views. You see the entire story from a lot of perspectives, so you read the story as a whole, which is a big plus point in this book, or any book for that matter. Anyway, the reason that I love this book is how through this absolutely emotional and adorable story, it teaches you to be kind to other people, it teaches you to be mindful of other people's feelings, and it teaches you to be a good person. The next one is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This one recently won the Women's Prize for Fiction 2019, and I think this book totally deserved it. So this book is heartbreaking to say the least, and I totally recommend it. For me, this one is a must read. So it's a story about a married couple, Roy and Celestial, and they have everything that one can ask for. They are happy, they have good careers, but then one day everything in their life changes for the worse because Roy is convicted for a crime that he did not commit for 12 years. The story has many themes, but the main theme is that how black people are discriminated against during the trials, because Roy is a black man and he gets convicted for a crime he does not commit, so obviously that's discrimination. So the story is about how Roy and Celestial try to make their marriage work after Roy's imprisonment, but slowly Celestial starts to drift away. Then Roy's sentence is shortened, he comes out of the prison in 5 years instead of 12, and we read about their journey, what happens while he's in the prison, what happens after he comes out of the prison, and it is a phenomenal experience to read it. Life is cruelly and brutally unfair sometimes, and there's nothing we can do about it. The next one is Fierce Fairy Tales and Other Stories to Stir Your Soul by Nikita Gill. So this is a collection of stories and poems which are basically the retellings of the fairy tales that we all have grown up listening to. In the original fairy tales, a lot of the times women or the heroines are shown to be damsels in distress, but in case of Nikita Gill's retellings, she has changed their personalities and she has presented those heroines and those protagonists as strong, independent women. I loved this book. I loved how she presented those characters that we have grown up reading about, that we have grown up loving. She offers a shift of perspective in this book, and honestly there is nothing written by Nikita Gill that I have not liked so far. I am generally a fan of her writing, and in this case it was no surprise that I ended up loving this book. And one thing that I have to mention about this book is that it's an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous edition to own. The next one is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I never thought that I would be including a story that is supposed to be for children in this video, but the reason for that is that it's very, very effective, that even though it's a children's story, it still manages to spook you out even if you are an adult. So this is a story about this girl named Coraline who lives with her parents in an apartment in a big house, but something is strange about that house. Especially there is this one door in her drawing room, and when she opens that door she finds out that it opens to a brick wall, so it's kind of useless. But then as the story progresses, Coraline realizes that the door is actually a portal to another world, into another apartment that looks just like her own, that actually houses her other parents, people who kind of look like her own parents but who have button eyes, and they want Coraline to completely move in with them, stay with them for the rest of her life. So as the story progresses, Coraline realizes that she is in a lot of danger and she also needs to save quite a lot of people. I had read Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman some time back, and it was a great book. This one is completely different from Norse mythology, but it is terrific. So that was my video. Do not forget to let me know in the comments which are your favorite books for 2019 so far. I love to hear from you. So that's it. If you want to connect with me on my social media, the links are in the description box. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, bye bye.